Hey, welcome back to Generator. While her work may be black and white, Kara Marie Trombetta is one of those people whose personality shows up in full color. Whether you're hanging out with her in person, attending one of her workshops, or just looking at her incredible self-portraits online. She's known worldwide for her intimate style of portrait photography, but honestly, that barely scratches the surface of defining her voice. Kara Marie's work is about reclamation and radical self-acceptance. It's about identity. It's about seeing yourself fully, exactly as you are, unfiltered, unperformed, and sometimes maybe for the first time. Over the years, she's built successful businesses for herself and others, but these days she's garnered a global reputation as an incredible educator and speaker. She's taught thousands of photographers how to shoot with more honesty and more purpose, and she's done it without ever pretending she has it all figured out. There's a lot of podcasts out there like The Portrait System, The Studio Takeover, and the Self-Value podcast that talk about how she built her business in her personal experiences with burnout. They're awesome. I really recommend listening to them. But I wanted to do something a little different with her time here. So in this conversation, I tried to keep us focused on the emotional and the empathetic side of what we do as photographers. We get into her self-portraiture, her self-reflection, living intentionally, and what it really means to make art that matters to you before it means anything to anyone else. Kara Marie is unflinchingly honest. She's sharp. She leans into the hard parts of growth, and she isn't here to sugarcoat anything. She's one of the most thoughtful artists I've ever spoken to, and I'm really grateful she joined me for this one. So let's get into it. Here's my conversation with the one and only Kara Marie. This is what it is. I don't do anything formal. You'll find that along the way. How is Lake Como? Are you in Lake Como? You're in Lake Como now, right?
I'm in, yes.
Okay.
Lake Como, I'm based in Como City.
Oh, in Como
right
City.
in the thick of the action, yes.
You were just in Austin a couple weeks ago, right? Weren't you?
I walk back and forth quite a bit. I was in Austin last maybe 6 weeks ago, and I'll be back again in about 2 weeks. So I'm still kind of straddling the line between American and Italian, but that's going to be shifting a little bit more towards the Italian side coming up.
Are you still doing anything with the collective there? Like, you still running the collective?
Yeah. So I still have my team in Austin. They do branding, photography, branding videos. It's all personal brandings and small businesses. So they're still cranking on that, doing a really, really good job there. I don't have a lot to oversee. They pretty much do everything. I answer some emails every now and then, and I check and approve work, and that's it. So that's we have a well-oiled machine now. All good.
It's awesome. I remember I stumbled across that, I think yesterday. I remember hearing you talk about it, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And I stumbled across it again, and I was like, oh, I wonder if you're still doing that. But I remember you said your associates had kind of taken it over, and it's more your name and style, right?
It's for them.
It was for them.
It was never for me. Yeah.
Got it.
Because I had built such a really amazing team in Austin, and especially my studio manager, Jolie. She's a fantastic photographer in her own right. And she had kind of been under my wing for so many years. And then I was just all of a sudden picking up and moving to Italy. Yeah. I'm like, well, I can't just, take your job away from you. So I essentially created a brand specifically for her, with her. And she's been the lead photographer and kind of the manager of that since I left. She's doing great.
In following you for all these years and kind of getting to know you, you're always one step ahead. It seems like you're always one step ahead of whatever the industry trend or zeitgeist is going on, right? And I don't personally like to use the word boudoir, but it's the word that everybody knows. I'm more of an intimate portrait guy, and not even an intimate portrait guy, just a portrait artist. That's what I do. And I kind of think you're in that same vein, right? Where we're defying the terms that get put on us.
It's
But
so limiting. It's so limiting.
so limiting.
Put a name on it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
With headshots, personal branding, boudoir, families, pets, right? It's just, we have a camera, we take pictures of interesting people. What did you used to believe that you don't believe anymore about photography in general? And then we'll start to really drill down.
Yeah, probably hyper specialization was one
Yeah.
of the things that I really, really, truly believed. Focus on one thing, and you're going to be the best at this one thing. And I did that, and I was pretty good at it. I mean, I established a pretty good business that way. Was booked and busy, and scheduled out in advance. Had a long wait list. Loved it, genuinely loved it. But then it's interesting that we put ourselves in our own prison, right? It's like,
Yeah.
it's not anybody else. I mean, ultimately, your audience is going to respond to what you train them. And I trained my audience to expect one thing from me. And it's still hard to break out of that box. I still get people coming, new clients coming in with, my very old work as inspiration and wanting to do this very, classic style boudoir, which there's nothing wrong with. Just I don't necessarily identify with it anymore because it was so streamlined and everybody was shot exactly the same and everything looked exactly the same. And I couldn't differentiate. I mean, I could look at 45 different sessions, the final shot of 45 different sessions, and they were all exactly the same. I couldn't tell you who they were. Just like the same like silhouette on the floor in the same exact pose. It was just, but I did it to myself. And it was a brilliant system. And it was a brilliant way to discover what it was that I didn't identify with anymore. And that was making everyone look the same. So yeah, that was a hyper specialization. I was like, that's the way to go. It was so funny. I'm woo, you know this, Matt. You've known me for years, but I had a friend of mine was like, I had this psychic reading and I have to set you up with this girl. So I get on the phone with her and she knows nothing about me and she didn't know my name. She doesn't know my line of work. She, a couple of things she hit the nail on the head and a couple of things are way off base. But she said, are you like an artist that's type A? And I was like, oh my gosh, I am a type A artist. And she was like, I feel like you took something that was really like creative and free spirited and you made it very corporate. And I was like,
Oh, the C word.
wow, like sucker punch. Corporate. As a corporate artist. Yeah, but that's true. That's exactly what I did. And now I don't identify with that anymore, although I do fight some bad habits, but I'm much more free-spirited and much less inclined to be able to even describe my work in a couple of words. It's hard to do now. So that's probably the biggest difference, I would say.
It really is. And it's why I truly, truly enjoy looking at what you do, because there's stylistically this voice, but it's never the same, right? And which is the antithesis to what you were just talking about.
Right.
I remember when I first saw you present, I think you showed some of your very early work, right? Here's the,
Yes,
hey,
I
all
always
this stuff,
do.
right? You always do, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful because you share it. When was the last time that you looked at your more recent work and felt that same level of discomfort that you felt about your early work? Does that come up a lot? Yeah.
Always. It's always been that way for me though. Since the very beginning, I could look, and I think it was because, I put myself in this high volume situation really early on. First, because I was passionate about it and I was just like excited and eager. You're brand new, bright eyed, bushy tailed photographer. And you're like, yeah, let's do 100 shoots in a week. And I'm going to take 6,000 shots and I'm going to process all of them. I was just, I had so much more energy then too. And I just don't anymore. But so there was that, Matt. And
Yeah.
then when you're advancing that quickly early on, you're looking back at your work from even a month ago and you've grown so much since then. So you have this kind of ick about it. And there's this gap, when you're a creative brain, your art is advancing like this, your skill is getting better. But when you're a creative brain, your taste is better than that. So there's always this gap between where your taste is because you have good taste and you know you want to be there and you know you have this potential, and then where your actual skill set is. And there's this very uncomfortable gap, and it doesn't matter what stage of your career you're in. Like right now, I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I the worst photographer of all time? I've been doing this for 18 years and I've been doing it extremely high volume, and I have enough proof from clients, from paying clients, that my work is good. But I still every month I evolve, or from shoot to shoot I evolve, and I look back at my last work and I'm like, wow, I could have done a lot better. So but the comfort is in knowing that that is going to be there forever and always going to be that way, and I have to get comfortable with that, and I have.
It's the funny thing about confidence is that those that should have it never do, and those that shouldn't have bucket loads of it, right? So yeah, it's one of those things I think that we fight as artists, is knowing that there's always more that we can do. We can always get better, but that doesn't mean that the current work is bad, right? So
No,
it's
of course.
this balance.
Of course
So
not. I mean, and especially in this line of work, it's really important that it's why if you keep the connection at the center of it and the service at the center of it, you can't be doing a bad job. I mean, if your client or your model walks out of the shoot feeling better about themselves in any way, shape, or form, like you can't beat yourself up too bad, right?
yeah. Let me shift to your self-portraiture for a minute. And
Hmm.
I think about that a lot because I think you're one of the people lately that has been on this vanguard of radical self-acceptance. You, Terry, Mitzi, right? There's a collective of you out there that are really pushing the radical self-acceptance through photography. A lot of that starts with self-portraiture. You've been remarkably open and vulnerable with your self-portraiture. But is there a story that you still have yet to tell through that photography as a self-portrait artist?
I think yes, probably so, but it's not a romantic reason or a poetic reason by any means. It's merely practical. So, like genuinely, because I'm a bit of a lazy photographer as well. And because I have this problem with the contrived, like I never want to overly set up a shot. I never want, because that takes away from the authenticity of it for me. And that's part of what makes my self-portraits, I think, so relatable to my clients and people that see them, is they look very effortless, I think.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's so much more that I could do or would want to show of maybe my life, but just the act of getting the camera out and setting it up, or getting cameras out and setting up these intricate angles and things, it takes away from the in the momentness of it. So I think, yes, that's probably the biggest thing, is that I would want to show more of my life and show more of the mistakes and show more of the like really hard days. But it's like, see these Instagram influencers sometimes like weeping on their reels. It's like, well, I mean, you did take the time to set up your camera and hit the button and then choose some music for it. And so it's not, it takes away from that. So I think I still need to come to some sort, maybe decide on a day where I'm going to set up 3 or 4 cameras to like remotely fire.
Right.
Just go about my business. I think that could be an option for me. But yeah, I think as far as choosing some sort of theme or choosing some sort of message, uh, no, not yet. There's just nothing that I'm feeling really pulled to do, and I never want to force anything.
What do you see in your self-portraits now that you wouldn't have seen a couple of years ago?
Mm. It's really fascinating to me to look at each self-portrait and know exactly where I was in my head at that time. I've had so many self-portraits in the early days of kind of like forced sensuality. I was a quintessential boudoir photographer, I had the lingerie and the heels and the like booty pop and and Photoshop and all of that. And in my head at the time, I was projecting confidence. This is a confident person. But I look back at those and I see like, what really, wow, I just wasn't. it's not that I was insecure. I don't believe that I've really ever been super insecure in who I am, but I just didn't know her all the way yet. You know, I was still young and still maturing, and I still hopefully will continue to do so as I age. But it's like, you know, your entire life is a relationship with yourself, and you're getting to know yourself, and you're courting yourself, and you're understanding who you are, and learning to accept and embrace each chapter of yourself. Yeah, so I can look back at the immature nature of where my head was at in those earlier images. And I would have not seen that back then. I just thought, wow, this is a great boudoir photo, you know?
Yeah. It's that progression from sex appeal to self-confidence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this, as you grow and age and get a little bit wiser, a little bit more experienced, a little bit more settled with self, that the things that we thought were important kind of fall away. And
Yeah.
it's bringing out that real part of you. I don't like using the word authentic anymore, right? But
I know.
it's all that realness of you.
It's like empowerment. It's been
Right.
said, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But no, you're absolutely right about that. I think it's really interesting to look at, you know, there's a lot of movements that come out with photography and with trends and things, and they kind of get beat to death and lose their meaning. And for me, it became really crazy that I had to project such, you know, sensuality, sexuality. And I thought, like, of course, you know, we can be sexy and sensual beings, but we're so much more than just that. So just screaming that, hey, look at me, look at these curves, look at this, look at it just seemed so shallow. There's so much more. There's so much more to a person. So yeah, I mean, as I've aged and gotten more experienced in both the industry and photography, you know, like it seemed like I was really doing a disservice to myself, to women, to all of my clients, to my entire audience for just narrowly defining, you know, what beauty looks like.
I think when people do self-portraits, they feel like they need to put everything out in the world. I did this, therefore you all need to see it. That's not really the case. Sometimes we do things just for ourselves.
Yeah.
Is there a version of you in photos that no one else sees?
You know, it's interesting. Having been in front of other photographers' cameras, it's interesting the way that I'm discovering that I'm seen by other people, because to me, I have such a clear picture of who I am. And I'm just very, not contrived is probably the most pressing of that when I'm is at least aesthetically presenting. And I find that when other photographers are capturing me, it's in this way, like they're doing this thing where they're, you know, glamming me up or sexing me up or making me, you know, Barbie or, you know, whatever. So for me is when I put my own self-portraits out, I know that, you know, that was a very real moment, and that I'm not crazily, you know, photoshopped. I'm not doing anything, especially now, you know, any wild poses or, you know, elaborate setups, and at all. I mean, it's pretty janky, the kind of the kinds of setups that I do. I mean, my camera is never on a tripod, ever, ever, ever. It's like propped on something ridiculous and probably pretty dangerously. But yeah, I mean, I think my thing, Matt, is that I just really don't want to have to scream a message out every time I share something. Self-portraits or client images. I like to tell stories. I think stories are really important to tell, but I don't want to, you know, I'm not going to stand up with a megaphone and scream about one tiny little facet of someone, you know. Fantastic body positivity moment. Great. Everybody love them, their bodies. Everybody be more accepting of the fact that there is a very wide array of bodies. That's fantastic. But if I'm posting an image of someone, I'm not saying, hey, look at her body. I don't do that for anyone. Why would I, you know, I don't want to narrowly define myself, my work, or any of my clients for that matter. So I don't remember what the initial question was. I probably got way off track there.
It's fine. You're saying, you know, you don't want to scream these things about yourself. And that kind of triggered in my mind. What are the things that you say to yourself in the studio when you're doing these things that no one else can hear but you? What does that self-talk sound like? Is it negative? Is it positive? Yeah.
No, it's
Is that
nothing.
impressive?
It's nothing. No, yeah, it's unimpressive. It's really, and I know like that's not the best answer to give. I wish it
Yeah.
was something more profound, but it's really not. I mean, honestly, it's like I just swallowed a bug, or like it's nothing profound. And I'm not, I don't have these like cathartic moments while I'm shooting very often myself. I'm not a like, oh, okay, I'm really gonna capture this angst right now. I'm really gonna. I don't do that. I put on whatever music I'm feeling in the mood for. That's really important to me. So if I'm feeling angsty, I'll put on angsty music. If I'm feeling, poetic, I'll put on, I don't know, Florence and the Machine, something like that.
Yeah.
I let the music set the tone. I set my camera settings accordingly. Like, is this going to be dark and moody? Is this going to be bright and airy? Is this going to be blurry? 9 times out of 10, yes. Yeah, I set that and then I free flow. I just move around and I'm in that moment and I sit in it and I after 25 frames are fired, I go back and look and see if anything inspires me to change anything up, and I do it. It's really not for me. And even now in my client work, when I go back to my images after the fact, that's when I have more of a connection with them than in the process of shooting it. I like the process of sitting down in front of my camera now, or in front of my computer now, which I never did before. But I really enjoy that because it's so much slower and I get to really observe the changes in the facial expressions from shot to shot. And remember at this moment, I was thinking one thing. I did a really cool, when I first moved to Italy, which I had no business going to this workshop because I didn't speak barely any Italian. I spoke restaurant Italian. I knew how to order food. And I went to an Italian speaking photography workshop taught by a contemporary artist, like a real legitimate artist that has exhibited in the Louvre. And I'm sitting in this photography class, like trying to put the words together and talk about self-portraiture. And he gives me an assignment that he doesn't give anybody else because he looks at my work. And this is a contemporary artist. And my work is not very contemporary, especially up until the point in which I moved here. It was very pretty. And that was what he called my work. It's very pretty work, but like, show me some ugly, Like, oh gosh, you're right. And he gave me this assignment and I kind of ran with it. And I did what was called the 12-hour self-portrait. And my rules were no professional lighting, no makeup, and the camera settings had to stay essentially the same all day long. And the camera was going to fire once every 15 minutes and take a picture of me. And it was meant to show kind of, the progression of being tired throughout the day or what you look like, how you look different throughout the day. And I had a skylight above me so you could kind of see in the shots as the daylight came and went. I'm like, this is so lame. This is so boring. But just taking away the power of knowing when the click was coming was wild. So I'm standing in front of this camera, knowing that sometime in the next 3 minutes, this is going to take a shot. As soon as it does, I write down what I was thinking when that shot was fired. Had no idea what was going to happen with this, but here I am, like looking like a drowned rat. I mean, it started at 6 o'clock in the morning and it went all the way, 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. every 15 minutes. And I was exhausted just standing there. It was exhausting. And I saw, the bags under my eyes get deeper and I saw, the bloodshot come in. And at one point I was like chewing on a piece of chocolate when the shot fired. And looking at the shots afterwards, you can see it in my eyes. You can see that I'm like, I'm revived a little bit. And the final shot, I was laughing hysterically because I was just delirious, really just, it's finally over. It's finally over. That was a really powerful, I thought that it was such a lame assignment. I just didn't get it. I'm like, how boring is this? Who's going to want to see this? But when you put it together with the thoughts that were coming through my head, you can really tell. I mean, you can read the little journal entries and look at shot number 15 and see that they go together. And that's a really powerful thing when you're looking at your self-portraits and knowing where your head was at that time. Very cool. Very cool. So I like that process better, the after the fact, than the during the fact. I'm just not profound during the shoot. I'm not.
The journaling aspect is something that I never really thought about doing. When I'm doing anything personal for myself when I'm photographing anything in the studio or doing self-portraits. I've never thought about journaling it down. I'm always like you, I'm in my head.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be an interesting shot. They just caught me picking my nose or, and
Yeah.
I really like that it affected you that much. I know a lot of clients when they go to a professional or, a real high-end professional like yourself, they often come away saying, you've changed the way that I see myself.
Mm.
You've changed how I view myself. Do you bear any responsibility in that? Or do you feel like you're just a conduit to them seeing themselves? Like, is there any responsibility that you manage?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Because as we know, you can put a camera in anyone's hand and they can take a picture of you, and it can change the way you see about yourself, but not in a good way. There is a lot of responsibility that I hold, and that I give myself credit for in that transaction. And that is giving people the permission to just be themselves. I don't build in hair and makeup services anymore. And I talk about that greatly with my clients before they have their shoot. I don't require crazy wardrobe. Like, everything is just very stripped down and real, because I want to show every person that's in front of my camera that they don't need a makeover transformation in order to be photographed and to see themselves as beautiful. And what's changed a lot about my work is that, I spend so much time now sitting down before a shot is fired, before I even take the camera out and show it to them, talking to people. Where are you at with your relationship with yourself, with your body, with how you see yourself in photographs? What sides of you do you want to be portrayed in this photo shoot? What do you love about yourself that you wish you saw more often, or you need to be reminded about more often? I have these really personal conversations and get a little bit like woo, and it's not for everybody. A lot of people want that. They want the makeover transformation. They want the Photoshop. They want and there is certainly a market for all of that. But I really make an effort to take a lot of time and get really close with my clients beforehand, understand what it is, because I don't want to decide for them how they should be seen.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to know what they want to see in themselves. And I tape a lot more candids now, those outtakes in between shots. And those are always the ones that people are like, oh my gosh, I've never seen it before, but I look like my mother, or I look like my grandmother who's passed away, or for the first time I'm seeing my kids. Usually they say, my kids look like my husband, but this is the first time that I've seen my kids in me. And just, it's so special. And when you take that time to really connect with people and ask them those important questions, first of all, it puts them at so much ease, because they recognize they're in really good hands and that you actually do care about this process. And it's not just, a paycheck or just, get you in and get you out. Yeah, it makes it so much more special. And when I started to transition, I've always been really great with customer service. Like, I've always put a lot of effort into making my clients feel served and just serving the hell out of them. But when I made that kind of pivot into not putting them into the box and not, photographing everybody in the same exact poses and the same exact way, and assuming that everybody wanted to look curvy in certain spots and skinny in other spots, when I made that pivot, my work just got so much deeper, and my job satisfaction just got so much deeper, because my clients were just the emotional reactions that they were having to their photos was just like nothing I had experienced before. And then once you start doing that, you never go back. You never go back.
I agree.
It's a lot more exhausting, I'll say. After a photo shoot is like all of the energy that's been going in and out, and it's a lot of emotions. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But yeah, I can't imagine doing this kind of work the way I do it now. 10 years ago when I was doing high volume, 8 and 10 in a week, which is insane, I would have never been able to emotionally keep up. But yeah, it's really powerful this way.
Is there any part of giving or receiving that vulnerability from someone that still makes you uncomfortable in any way? Is there ever any situation where you're connecting with someone so deeply you're like, oh, I've wandered into that territory. Yeah.
It's hard because I'm also not a therapist. I'm not licensed. I'm not a licensed medical professional in any way, shape, or form. And sometimes things get real heavy and real deep. And I can be a great listener, and I can, console, and I can hug, and I can say like maybe a little motivational thing. But in those situations where it gets like really heavy really fast, I'm like, oh shit. Like, what do I do? Because it's funny, I'm in this line of work, which is wild to me, that I'm in this line of work working primarily with women. My whole personal life outside of my work is all boys. It's just testosterone everywhere. I'm a boy mom. And like the testosterone of my boys in particular. Oh my gosh. Like I am like all of my friends, or most of my friends, are gay men, or they are like women that project more of masculine energy.
Mhm.
So it's really wild to me that I have this crazy juxtaposition between my personal life and my work life. And so, and I goof off a lot in both my life and my work. But yeah, sometimes like heavy emotions give me that, like, oh, there, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So it's crazy that I've crafted this very specific line of work for myself. And it does make me uncomfortable every time. Every time. Every time. It's like, it's the same kind of discomfort that a lot of people experience in receiving compliments, I think. I feel the same kind of, like, I don't know what to do right now. Yeah. So I've worked really hard to just be as good of a listener as I can be, and, not focus so hard on trying to give, advice or counseling, because that's not my specialty. It's more just giving people the permission to share whatever they want to share, and to be themselves, and to know that even if they blink or start crying or like make a silly face, it's still them, and they're going to appreciate those photos someday, even if they don't today. Mitzi, you brought up Mitzi, who she's obviously fantastic, and she kind of I was going to use a word that made it sound negative, but she kind of like pressured me a little bit into like doing this raw photo shoot. And I didn't have, I don't typically seek out photos from photographers anymore, because they're just never me. It's just not me. The only people that photograph me the way that I like to be photographed, it's just myself, right? That's it. And I'm
Sure.
that, yeah. So I was, but I knew her shtick. I knew that it was, raw as I am, just like show up. And she was coming to my workshop, and she like came to my hotel room, or I went to hers or something, and we like knocked it out. And I'm looking at these photos afterwards, and I'm like, this is the first time, because it was really just a sit and talk. I was sitting there, we were talking to each other. I'm looking through the photos afterwards and seeing all my hand mannerisms and the way that I speak. Like, there's no way to have a photo shoot like that and it not be you. You're not trying to do anything or to be anything. You're just sitting and talking, and people don't get to see themselves like that very often. So yeah, it's a cool thing to let people feel like they don't have to project beauty or sensuality or intelligence, or insert any characteristic here. It's just it's a really cool thing.
You said a couple of things in there that really hit home for me. One, no, we're not therapists. We press buttons.
No,
right?
no, don't get it twisted.
Right? So as I've progressed from doing the same thing, kind of glam work, more commercial work, high end, very beautiful, to now strip it down, no makeup, let's just be here existing, right? That's kind of where I've moved my stuff. Just the act of holding space for someone, just listening, not giving advice, not trying to solve their problems, but just giving them that space to just let out the poison sometimes is all that needs to happen. I think people think there's a magic thing to connecting with someone really deeply. And I used to think that too, but there's not. It's the ability to sit and listen to someone genuinely. actually listen, not, oh God, I'm running late and we're never going to get to these photos. And what do I have to just sit and let them get it out? That little bit of curiosity that you can lean into is going to help the session. At least that's what I found. Is there an emotion that you love to capture and one that you try to avoid in your photos, or do you just let the spectrum run?
I let the spectrum run, but I will say I absolutely love like authentic laughter, like real, like if somebody just like loses it and just, like that kind of laughter. Oh, I love it so much. And that is which is so funny too, because, I do a lot of like confidence work and
Right.
power portraits and these kinds of things, which is important to get, and putting people into these strong, confident, power poses genuinely, it physiologically changes them. It does build confidence. It increases their testosterone. It decreases their cortisol levels. But it's the personality shots that come after that are my favorites. Like, so the confidence, like the power portraits, that building of the confidence is such an important, crucial step. It's a crucial first step. But it's what comes after that the images speak to me the most.
Yeah.
Mm.
I have to say, as a side note, that Power Portraits posing ebook that you put out is worth every cent. So
I'm glad
I
you like it.
hope people check it out, because that style of posing for women that I've found, whenever I utilize some of those techniques, they sit up, they feel better. And there really is just a shift in total attitude, no matter what. Even if it's just a few
100%.
poses playing at the end, there is a absolute shift that is palpable. And I love how in that book as well, you go through all the why, all the intention. Here's how. Not just put your leg here, put your arm here, put the light here.
Right.
There's so much more intention to it. And that draws out the actual pose, rather than just take your body, contort it into this position, and we're done.
Right.
Right.
Precisely.
So
yeah.
as you're doing that and people start to see themselves differently, is there one truth that you've learned in all of that from all of your clients, right? Doesn't mean they all have to have the same emotion, but is there one truth that you've learned through all these sessions about that essence of power?
Yes, yes. And I'll say this in regards to women specifically. Women are afraid of being that confident. They are they fear that they're going to be viewed as bitchy. And genuinely, and here's the thing, and not to get all, deep or whatever, but yes, of course, society has trained us. But what's wild to me is it's kind of women that are doing this to women. It's kind of us that are the hardest critics on ourselves and each other. And this fear of being just fully in your power because of the potential societal ramifications of that. That seems to be, even in the women that come in and they do project confidence on a regular basis, they still have that little bit, because I don't know, that's just, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. There's just that little thing that's still holding them back from the next level or their full potential. Yeah, so that is a constant. It's everybody that I photograph, which I'm trying to change that one photo shoot at a time. But all I can do is chip away at it, right? Chip away.
Do you call that out to them in the moment?
No. You know what I'll do is, and this was something that actually, and Terry, I think it was Terry that taught me, just asking the question, why?
Yeah.
Just why? It's like what a good therapist does, right? That doesn't actually give you the advice. It gets you to give yourself the advice.
Tell me what you think about that.
Way there are similarities, but I don't want to look, when I don't smile, I look mean. Why do you think that is? Why do you think you look mean? Do you think that you like to see photos of yourself smiling more than not smiling? Yeah, definitely. Okay, why? So it's just asking the question and getting them a little uncomfortable for a second, and then recognizing that, okay, perhaps it's okay if I don't smile for every single picture. Just exploring it. It's like an exercise, right? We're flexing muscles and just exploring ideas that challenge us a little bit. And I think that's really important to do. I don't ever want to claim that somebody coming in for a photo shoot with me is going to completely transform their lives. It does sometimes, though.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
of times it does, because it poses a question that they've never considered before. So that, it's important to just be a conduit for that, as you said. Yeah.
I think it's part of the connection. You called it out correctly. I never like to make someone feel uncomfortable in front of the camera,
Yep.
but I will
Yeah.
probe a little bit because it is going to help them discover themselves. It's not my responsibility, again, coming back to it, to be your therapist, but I will pull on threads. If I hear something, right, you pull on that thread a little bit, and typically they'll take it and just unravel everything. Then I'm like, oh God, what did I start? Right. I'm now super uncomfortable. Well, let's just get back to laughing. Click, click, click. So, but I think there is a part in almost every shoot where you do cross that threshold into understanding the person more. Maybe why they were a little bit more hesitant. Maybe why they are potentially overacting or putting a mask on, right? You start to understand people. That little bit of empathy I take into every subsequent shoot. Say, I don't know what they're going through up here, so let me just try to understand them the best that I can.
It's really good to start to lay that groundwork before the photo shoot as well. I found when, I've always had kind of a heavy questionnaire for my clients before their photo shoot, but now it's really, talk to me about your relationship with your body. I give them like a drop down box first. So it's just like, okay, where am I at? Do I hey, you're dancing naked in front of the mirror all the time? Like, you look great, which is almost nobody that I photograph anyways. I mean, and so it ranges from that all the way down to I absolutely loathe the way that I look. I'm not comfortable with who I am as a person. That's a huge. And when you see that on a photography questionnaire, you're like, oh, shit, this is going to be different. Right? This is not, and it's just asking the question because I want them to think about why are you doing this? It's not, especially, earlier on in the game when I had very narrowly defined niche, people were like, it's a wedding present or da, da, da. And then over the course of, the shift in my brand message, I would start to get people saying, oh, I'm celebrating my 50th birthday. So then it turns into them, but it still has to have a reason. It has to have a birthday or a very, very specific thing attached. Now, people are coming to me because they just kicked cancer or they just left a toxic relationship and they're ready to rebirth themselves. So it's really interesting how what we put out there as photographers and artists about what our message is, what our brand is, when we make that our voice match the aesthetic, the magic that unfolds and how it just sucks people in that need you. It's not just I'm looking for a photographer. I don't photograph people that are just looking for a photographer. They would choke on the prices. There's no, people don't come to me for that, they're coming to me for something very specific. Has my audience narrowed? Yep, sure has. Definitely not for everyone now. Before I was for most people, and now I'm not. I'm just not. And it makes it so much more impactful for each client. Yeah. So I always suggest to photographers or artists of any type to really start asking those questions before they even step in front of your camera. What is it that would make you, shrivel up and want to die if you saw it in your photographs? That's it. I'm just asking the question. I want to hear their answers. I'm not giving them any, sometimes I'll drop them some links beforehand if I'm seeing some real red flags.
Right.
Check out my friend Terry's work, hand it over to the professionals. But yeah, it's really important to ask those questions beforehand. That's going to lay a lot of the groundwork for you. You're still going to have uncomfortable moments, like you said, in front of the camera. But if you get some of the ick out of the way beforehand, it can only help.
Well, they're walking into your studio with wardrobe and accessories and a shit ton of beliefs about themselves that they've had since childhood.
Right.
Is there a belief about yourself that took longer to rewrite than you were expecting?
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. So what's really funny, it took me leaving the US just because of me,
Because,
for any other reason, just because. It took me leaving the United States and moving to across the world to Italy, in which the values are completely different. Very different.
right.
It is, women have much more clearly defined roles. There's things that are acceptable for women to do and not acceptable for women to do. You're a mom? Okay, you're a mom, you know? And when I first moved here, I was so resistant to that. And I'm like, I'm going to bring, my card carrying feminism to this country, and I'm going to spread this and I was so like, I had a chip on my shoulder about it. And I leaned so hard into, I want to be a career woman. I want to build this like corporate art business for myself. I leaned so hard into that I really sacrificed so much of my softness and my femininity, honestly. I had a friend here that's very, very intuitive. She does a lot of body work and breath work and things like that. And she was like the first person to ever tell me, well, you have penis envy. And I was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Which all of my friends know that I draw little penises and everything, just like a 12-year-old boy. Like I'm not. And she's like, well, you very obviously have been just projecting this, you've been trying really hard to be masculine. It's not necessarily a thing that comes naturally to you, or didn't. And now you've leaned so hard into it that it's really hard for you to embrace your softer side and your more feminine side. And I say that in air quotes because everyone has masculine and feminine energy in different amounts, right?
Agreed.
I leaned so hard in, and then I got here and I'm having a really hard time. I mean, less and less, it's getting easier, but not fixing all of my value onto what I've built and what I've created, other than, my family and my boys. And that was a really radical shift for me. And it didn't come without some kicking and screaming. I mean, it was really hard. And I went into this kind of spiral of, I was thinking I knew exactly who I was. I know who I am. I know exactly who I am. And then I got here, and then the work part of me was dissolved for a little while. I very intentionally took a step back for 2 years, really, and just focused on, assimilating to this new culture. And that is like, okay, you're a woman, so you're a mom, and you're going to be at school drop off and pick up in every play and every soccer game and which I always did that before. I always had my laptop with me. And I would bring the candle at both ends, and I was miserable. So, detaching from all of that and losing that fixation on productivity and how much money my studio is generating and all of my accomplishments that had nothing to do with like who I was as a person, really. That was it was wild. I'm on this, and I'm not done. I'm still working on it, but it's been so beautiful to all of a sudden, I told my husband, poor thing, my we were both like high career people in Austin, and then we had kind of we came to a head, and we had this kind of opportunity. It's like well, the kids are getting older. We're not nanny people. We're not we wanted to be very present in our kids' lives, but we couldn't both in equal amounts. Like there had to be one person that took on more of like the home roles.
Sure.
And I demanded that was him. Demanded it. You're first of all, you're a great cook. It was like cooking and cleaning and all of the traditional female roles, whatever. And he was like, cool. And he, for years, I mean, he always carried his business, and he just, he intentionally slowed himself down so that he wasn't working as much, and did all of those things. And when people asked him what he did for a living, he said he was a trophy husband, and like got a kick out of it, and like loved it, like ate it up, loved it. And even after we arrived here, then he was working just for me. He had sold his business in Austin. He was working for my company, and he was like, I don't do anything. I'm just like, she's my boss. She's the boss. Ha, ha, ha. And then I was like, so like same time with the, we picked up and moved and slowed everything down. And I'm like, oh no, I'm intentionally slowing down. I'm gonna go like slow to like retirement. Really, I just really need to like slow down and focus. And then I was like, oh, okay, babe, I changed my mind. I changed my mind. And he was like, what do you mean? Can I be a trophy wife for a while? And he was like, what? Who are you? Who are you? And obviously, I would never take it to that extreme. I enjoy work too much. But I just really got into this like slower, less scheduled, more present, more involved with the kids. And I really liked it. So I changed my mind. So he's now, we started a boat company here. Boat tour company on the lake, and that's where he is now, and he'll be captaining a boat like crazy because I changed my mind, and I will always work, and I always want to work, always. I don't want to have to. Such a diva.
Such a diva. This is what everyone says about you. I've read it everywhere. It's very hard to deal with. Really diva-esque. Green M&Ms only, that sort of thing. So life can get kind of weird and roller coaster up and down, and you can go to these extremes on the emotional spectrum. What brings you back to center? Do you have a ritual that after a shoot or after the family gets kind of nuts for a little bit, right? You're around all these guys.
Yeah.
Do you have a ritual that just kind of brings you back to center?
I mean, that was there for the last 10 minutes.
That was subtle.
Joke of it.
So subtle.
So I have a very specific incense that I light that it just brings everything to like, it's the most, in fact, that was another like husband-wife battle because he was like, it triggers my asthma. And I'm like, well, you're going to have to go.
We had a good run.
Yeah, right. That I have a very specific incense that I burn, and it's so funny because at all of my workshops, no matter where in the world, it's like travel with it. And people I used to burn it in my studio. It's like signature scent, but that is always what it just, that scent kind of brings me back. Also being in nature, like going for a walk in the woods is the most powerful drug. It's just wild how that just chills you out. You leave your camera, you leave your phone, you're just walking in the woods. It's a beautiful thing. So those are the things that are just, nothing else exists in the world when those things happen. Yeah.
It's the reason I moved to the sticks, right? I was doing a shoot yesterday and came home. It's beautiful. It's like the first beautiful day in Maine in months, right? Since like last year. And so it was about 75 degrees yesterday, and I was out and I was working in the yard and flew the drone a little bit and just wanted to get some top-down views of where I am because there's like 100 undeveloped acres all around me. So I'm literally in the middle of the forest, in the sticks, right? It really brought home the fact that after growing up in Boston for my entire life, moving up north about 15 years ago, the radical shift that brought me in terms of peace and confidence and just getting out of the rat race, getting out of the burnout. Not that working for yourself is any piece of cake, but the fact is you just learn to appreciate things differently. Yeah. And that's the one thing that I'm grateful for, is that I can keep coming back to this one spot over and over and just recenter. And you've talked about that 7%. I remember you talking about it in your customer service workshop about how you can make your space more inviting and how it can center yourself and center your clients. And I remember you talking about your signature scent. Yeah. Let's pivot to your workshops. And I use the word pivot intentionally, right? So
yes.
See what I did? I've been holding on to that one for
You're really good at that.
45 minutes. Thank you. I appreciate that. The pivot workshop. Tell me about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So this is my baby. I'm so excited about this workshop. So they're sessions and it's like a creative intervention is
Mm,
what I'm calling it. I listen pretty well to my colleagues, my peers, and where the market's at. And there's certain things that I'm qualified to speak on and certain things that I absolutely am not. And I will never speak or teach on anything that I'm not qualified to do so, which is really frustrating for a lot of my students because we'll be in a workshop and they'll be like, can you, okay, so if my F stop is this, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Slow down, slow down. No, I, what's happening right now, people are freaked out.
Yeah.
If you are a systematic photographer or a systematic artist who's always done things, or at least for a long time has done things a certain way, and you've gotten pretty safe in your work, things are probably slowing down for you right now. Or what was working for you is no longer working for you. The things that were guaranteed, even your social media has quieted down or changed a lot. And people are freaked out. And I'm watching creatives, which is probably 95% of the people that I follow and connect with are creative people. And they are reeking of desperation right now, which is the worst thing that you can do. It's the very worst thing you can do. And, people are like, oh, why could I just, is this the end? Is this the end for me with AI and with this and this? And they're like, this is the end for my industry. It's done. And I throw in the towel and I go back to, I don't know, bartending or, whatever, which nothing wrong with a pivot, right? But I use the word pivot very specifically. It doesn't mean that everything has to change. This is a perfect opportunity for people to do a creativity audit because there's so few people that I speak to that actually love their lives.
Yeah.
Even those of us, especially those of us that have built our own little prisons, right? I am a photographer. I photograph women in this way. And I built this studio and it's been successful for all of these years. And, I started procrastinating on editing and my turnaround time got longer and longer. And I started to dread maybe that I booked 2 shoots in 1 week or 3 shoots in 1 week. And, God, emails are killing me. And oh my God, another. I'm noticing that a lot of creatives have more things that they dislike about their jobs and their work than they like. And that is such a crucial piece of the formula to being recession proof, to being to transcending market trends and algorithms. And you have to truly love your life. You have to love your work life, your personal life. And I used to put those two things in such separate boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just doing a disservice to both my professional self and my personal self. When I learned to kind of bridge that and have this more fluid lifestyle, it changed my world. It changed my work. It changed my bottom line. It changed everything, my relationships. It changed everything. And, you fall in and out of touch with that. You have to remind yourself. You have to keep aggressively auditing your work, your lifestyle. And the pivot sessions is about waking you up and forcing you to take a good, hard, honest look at the life that you built for yourself. Everyone's like, I ask people, what do you like to do? Well, I just love going for walks. I just love being outside in nature. Cool. How often do you do that? Well, and there's 100 different excuses, I like to, but maybe really when it boils down to it, maybe only once every 3 weeks or so. Why are you not doing that every single day? Oh, well, I couldn't possibly. Well, why not? So it's really forcing you to take a look at, for me, I got into my car, and this is in Austin. I woke up at 4:14 a.m., 4:14 a.m. Don't know why. got up, got ready, got to like all my meal preps into containers and got the kids up and got them off to the bus stop and got in my car and drove to my studio before rush hour while the sun was still down because I didn't want to sit in rush hour traffic. And then my work days extended because I was avoiding the traffic. And then I would get in my car and I would, drive to a gym where I would pay an exorbitant amount of money to move my body. and this is a very normal American thing,
Sure,
right?
absolutely.
We have gym memberships and we go and we which is great. Yeah, take care of your health and your body for sure. But maybe we start moving a little bit throughout the day. Maybe, maybe we make an effort to, walk around the block a couple of times because it actually makes us happier. Physiologically, it makes us happier. It's better for us than, walking on a treadmill in a gym. And you have to do what you have to do, absolutely. But we keep putting ourselves in these prisons. And then before we know it, we don't recognize our lives and we're not doing anything that lights us up anymore. You don't have to pick up and move across the world. I did because I was that habitual about my terrible, terrible habits. But doing so, kind of shaking up your world, even if you force yourself to do it for 2 weeks time, where you write yourself a brand new lifestyle, like you top to bottom, from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep, what is your dream lifestyle? Are you living that right now? Probably not even close. Not even close.
No.
There are so many little changes that we can be making that are going to get us closer to that. And once you start that trajectory, it's addictive and you can't stop. And then the things that don't serve you are going to be so obvious to you and you're just going to repel them. It's a beautiful thing. And I want to keep helping. I've been working really closely with my mentorship students on this. I've been sprinkling this content in over the last 4 years of my workshops. And it's always been so kind of eye-opening for the people there because they're like, most of them started following me when I was, at the peak of my burnout. And they're like, how do I get to have 10 photo shoots a week? Teach me how to be booked. Teach me how to be booked. So I have these same people that have been following this trajectory of me coming into my workshops, and I'm like slapping them across the face, not literally. Like my lawyer told me I can't do that anymore.
Those damn restraining orders.
Really waking them up to the fact that I'm not living the life that lights me up and makes me a better person for myself, for my partner, for my kids. I'm making myself sick, and it's nobody's fault but my own. Kids are no excuse. In fact, that is your excuse to change your life. And so this workshop it's 2 very intense sessions, and they're independent of each other. You can come to just one or both. They're 2.5 hours, and it is a in your face, you are actually going to go through your life and nitpick it, and then we're going to build back in. What do you want your work to say? What do you want your work to be? Now, how do we create a life around that? And so I am really I can't wait for it. I've had the content written it's been done, which this is not me. Usually I'm refining. It's been done. And I'm like, should I do another one sooner? I'm ready to do it. It's going to help creatives that are feeling really, really stuck and scared right now to change all of the things that aren't serving them and actually be hopeful about the future, because their life and their work is going to start working for them and not against them. And you're not going to have to worry as much about, as humans, it's our human nature. We're always going to be a little bit worried, especially in today's political climate. We don't know what's going on, but or we do, and that's what scares us. But it is really powerful when you really dial in on yourself, what lights you up, because your personal peace and the domino effect that has a game changer for everyone that's in your life. It's not just for you. It's for your family. It's for your best friends. When they see that you're living like this, they want to know how. They want to do it. They want to be able to offer that same kind of light in the world. Yeah. Domino effect is a beautiful thing. So I'm really excited to continue to help photographers, especially photographers who are just in complete code red panic mode right now. A lot of them, even the ones that aren't saying it, they're, you can notice the posts and things like the desperate sales. And yeah, we want to rid you of that energy and start being a magnet for the stuff that lights you up, because that's what lights everybody up, and the world needs more of that.
Burnout is not a flex.
No.
Right? It's
I used to think so, I think.
Yeah, no, everybody does at some point. I'm so busy. Oh, I couldn't possibly. I'm so busy, right? And it's just not a flex. And I've gone through that burnout cycle several times. And when I hear you talk about it, you get that, oh God, yeah, I remember. Oh, how awful that was. Literally physically what it does to you, right? So
Physically.
the thing that always gets me, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't in like some part of that. I've noticed over the past 6 months or so that I used to be much happier. And I don't say that to be like I just sit in a corner balled up all day long.
Yeah.
I just like, where did things slip away? I don't necessarily feel the desperation from a business standpoint, but something's out of balance, out of harmony. Right.
Yeah.
And it takes that really hard look. And sometimes it's a really hard look in the mirror to say, oh yeah, I guess I could go for that walk. I could get up from my desk instead of sitting there for 10 hours.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that you see with your students that you try to protect in them? Because so often students want to radically shift everything so they can replicate what it is that you did.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly it, is that there is no one way. And your dream life can and should be completely different than mine. Same as your work. Your lifestyle should be so customized. Yeah. There is no artist, no paid artist on this planet that should be doing it the same as another one. Everything has to be customized. There's no sense in putting, you're in a creative industry, for crying out loud. Well, why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we put ourselves into a 9-to-5 schedule, 9-to-9 schedule? In my case, like, why do we do that to ourselves? Like, we wanted a different alternative life. Why are we conforming? Why are we, and there's this, I make people watch this, I have to save this for my workshop. I can't say it, but I make people watch this video, and it just, it's a Pixar short, and those always get you.
Oh yeah.
And it's essentially about how the world just tries to beat all of your originality out of you, and it's a fight. You're really standing against something and working hard to maintain your individualism and your creativity, and to not have all of the life sucked out of you by what's expected of us. But it is just a mindset shift. It is. And that's another one of those cliches that just change your mindset. Oh, is it that easy?
Just be happy, would you?
Well, just
be happy.
Just like, as my husband always likes to say, just relax. Oh, relax. Okay.
I'm sorry he's no longer with us.
Right. Threw him overboard. He's getting better about that.
Is there a piece of advice that you used to give your students that you don't anymore because you no longer believe it?
It was really just the system, I think, that I was teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was more like the schedule. I used to kind of preach the schedule, and I didn't say that it had to look a certain way.
Yeah.
Like, you have a schedule for yourself so that you stay committed and you stay. And I understand why I said that, but now that I've seen the other side of things,
yeah,
so much better. And for women especially, we operate on a very different cycle. So every week of the month looks different for our hormones. And, this week I need to be in the sun and doing nothing. Next week is my productivity week. And learning how to honor those ebbs and flows is so powerful, and such a beautiful thing for just general life satisfaction, and for productivity, and for creativity, and for your relationships with others. So that's probably the biggest, is like moving away from this. Okay, I'm going to do, every day at 10 a.m. I'm going to do this thing. And then every day at 3 p.m. I'm going to do this thing. Like that is just, it's impractical, first of all, but it's really doing us a disservice. And it can very easily backfire, especially for women.
I've heard Sue Bryce talk about, the daily ritual that you have for self-value, right? You're just grounding yourself.
Yes.
But she says the same thing. There is no one way to do it. There's no one set time. Just being active doesn't mean you have to go to the gym and be on a treadmill. Just move your body if you need to move your body, right? So I think that just the act of calling it out to people and giving them permission. God, all these phrases
I know.
I hate using, right?
Overused,
right?
It's true.
But just highlighting to people that all the heavens, all the hells are inside of them and they can choose what they want, right? So what's something that you see in new photographers that you wish you still had? Is there something that you admire in new photographers?
Energy.
Sobriety, energy.
I don't think that's just new photographers. It's just, young photographers. Maybe it changes over the years. Energy. But in more seriousness, I will say the ignorance.
Yeah.
Because when you don't know the rules yet, I would look at my early work and at the time that I shot it, I'm like, wow. Like I just started this. I can't even believe how incredible I am at this. So that like blind ignorance and confidence, like absolutely. But it was such a beautiful thing because what happened to my work, even though at that point it was technically horrendous, like absolutely, but then I got to be a better photographer and my shit got boring, like boring. And even later into my career, even like 12 to 13 years into my career, then I tapped into a different audience. Like my audience changed when I got brought into kind of the Portrait Masters stage, and I had the opportunity to speak on that platform. And myself, who thinks always that I'm not susceptible to trends or my environment, and I'm not susceptible to my work started to shift a bit, and it got a little bit more like glamour. And I'm like, why is this happening? Oh, because that's everything around me. I didn't think that would happen to me, So, and then I started to learn, proper Photoshop techniques and like all of the like correct ways to light and do things. And my work month by month got more and more, less and less me, and more just like, pretty box. And I lost myself. Then I started studying, which is so type A of me, studying creativity. And I'm serious.
I need to do creativity perfectly.
I started researching creativity. It's true. And when I did that, I'm like, okay, I've got to really like restructure and things and start to forget the rules. Like the rules, they always say like, you got to learn the rules so you know how to break them. And I actually disagree. I don't think you need to learn them. I don't think you should ever learn them. Like really, I mean, as long as you're being a good person and you consent, learn those rules. But when it comes to art and photography and like, no, you go with feeling, you go with the vibe, you go with what makes you like feel something. And like if there's something you want to learn how to do, learn how to do it. Like go seek out, there's so much information out there. Learn how to be the best, the best audio guy, or learn whatever you want to learn. Absolutely. But learn it because you want to learn it and you want to get better at that. Don't learn it because that's what you're supposed to do. Because while you're learning the things that you're supposed to do, you're forgetting all of the things that make you you. And there's just not enough bandwidth in there to handle all of that. And your work will start to get boring. So it's important to I think unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, it is part of the process of being an artist is like, I had no idea what I'm doing and my work is so good and I'm awesome, to, okay, I guess I don't know everything. And okay, look, I'm learning more. I still hate my work, by the way. I'm learning more, but it's starting to look like it could be anybody's. And that was when I realized that my work to me lost so much unique individualism that was like dropping me into like frigid, like a cold plunge. I'm like, nope, absolutely not. Get me out of here. So yeah. The rules, man.
Rules will get you every time.
Don't be boring.
Well, I've seen, as I go to different workshops over the years, I love learning. I love learning from as many people as I can learn from. Because
Exactly.
I take a little bit from here and a little bit from there.
Yeah.
Never really trying to replicate someone, but there are certain artists and educators that have that thing that resonates with me. So I'll go seek them out and, I'll understand how their recipe works. But I like cinnamon, so I'm going to throw cinnamon in this thing, right?
Perfect.
And
Yes.
I
That's
love
exactly it.
like rewriting the recipe, right? For myself. I think the magic that people experience in workshops is that they get to release themselves from the work that they normally do. They get to release themselves from any preconceived rules or methods that they have to follow, because I have to make a 10 image sale. Therefore, I can only use these poses because I know that they'll sell. And then when they get to a workshop, they're like, oh my God, I can put a light anywhere I want it. I had no idea. And I think there's something freeing in that we experience in workshops that maybe it's on the plane, the TSA takes it at the check-in or something, but we don't go home with that same feeling and then apply it, because we forget and we fall right back into the old habits.
Well, it's really, I mean, you're so right. You're so right. It's interesting when people come into my workshops, because they get a little wide-eyed, because I'm like, I don't want, even if it's a photo shoot workshop, a shooting workshop, and we're all photographing the same model on the same set. Your image better look different than yours. It doesn't need to look, you have so many different elements at play here. Your perspective, your camera settings, your own personal style. Like, are you shooting from the floor and shooting up? Are you shooting through fabric? I want everybody's images to look different, because, when you go to workshops, which are so important to do, because the community, first of all, like when you're an artist, you're more likely to be a little bit of a shut-in, as we are, right? So the community aspect is extraordinarily important. Like, you need to be around that energy. You need to feel that excitement around your peers. Absolutely. And then going to workshops where I always tell people, when you're looking for inspiration for your art, like there's inspiration and there's replication. Okay.
Right.
So you have to, if I were to buy a Louis Vuitton bag on, Canal Street in New York, that was like Louis Vuitton or whatever, it's the same, they're imitating one specific product. That's an imitation. Photographers and artists, we want so badly sometimes for somebody to tell us what to do, because we get a little bit like lost, and they'll come to my workshops, or they'll come to my shooting bay at the Portrait Masters or whatever, and be like, okay, what do I do? And I'm like, I'm not telling you what to do. In fact, I had somebody complain about that once, because I didn't tell her what to do. I'm like, that's not what I teach. Like, no. Like, what do you want to do? But it's so important to go to these workshops and take the thing that you love about that educator. Like, I took way back in the day, I took a Lola Milani workshop. Actually, it was in Sue Bryce's studio, not because I ever wanted to shoot like a maternity motherhood portrait. That wasn't my shtick. I loved her semi-silhouettes. I loved the way she lit, and I wasn't very comfortable with studio lighting. So I went specifically to learn that piece from her. And then I come over here, and I'm going to go and do a workshop with an abstract painter, because I want to learn more about, chaotic lines. Or, you take something that you love from each educator, from each artist, and over time, you melt all of those things into this one very, very unique style. People should seek out workshops like that, not because they want to emulate or imitate any one artist, because everyone is better than that. You're better than just being a knockoff of Sue Bryce, or a knockoff of Lola Milani, or a knockoff of Helmut Newton, or whoever. Like, you don't want to be a knockoff. You take pieces of wisdom that all of these people have to share, and they're so generous with that information. You eat it all up, and then you add the cinnamon, and then the paprika, And then you shake it up in a martini shaker and pour it over ice or whatever. It's aperitivo time here.
I'm like, I know I'm cutting into, limoncello o'clock. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's start landing the plane so you can start doing shots. Everything you just said is really important. I've noticed that people that speak very well, that are eloquent, that have a vocabulary, you can tell that they've read a lot of books over the years.
Yes. Correct.
People that have a distinctive photographic style, I believe, have better visual literacy than other folks that want to just replicate. So whenever somebody, asks me, how do I set this up? Unless they have literally no idea what they're doing, I'll often say, well, what is it that you're after? What do you see right here? What image do you see right here? Let's help you make that, because that'll be yours, not mine. So when people start to understand that they can pull from all of these parts of their lives and all the things that they've seen, the Helmut Newton books and the Ian Leibowitz books, and make it their own recipe, their own little goulash of visuals, I think that's where people finally become the photographer that they want to be. But we're also human, and we forget to do that from time to time.
Sure. Wait, I'm sorry. Are you that people actually get to the point where they're happy with?
I think so. It might be on their deathbed.
The photographer that they want to be. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you do. I think you finally get to a point where you're like, I give zero fucks anymore what people think about my work, and I am just doing
I hear
me.
Okay.
Because while I vacillate between, I like my work, I hate my work, I like my work, I hate my work.
Yes.
There was this point, I'd say a year or two ago, where I realized that I was only trying to take pictures to impress my other photographer friends. I wasn't doing anything anymore that made me feel good. And I looked at my feed, and I looked at who I was associating with, and I looked at my clients, and I said, none of these is driving me. I was lying to my clients insofar as like, this is all the work I do, but it just didn't feel genuinely me. I was lying to my photographer friends because I was saying, look how good I am, but it wasn't the voice that I wanted to project.
Yeah.
And I was lying to myself that this is the work that I'm supposed to be doing, and that this is what's going to bring me happiness. And when I finally shifted that, I became more creative. I started to like doing the work more, right? I took that radical, hard look at myself.
Absolutely.
And it was painful, and it's hard. Because, not niching down, but you lose clients, you lose friends, you lose this as you singularly focus on what it is that you want to bring to the world.
For sure.
As people attend workshops, learn from you, learn from Sue or Jerry or Terry or Mitzi or anybody. I think you have to go in with some level of intention about what it is that you want to take away. A little bit of pre-thought. What is it that I want to take from this, right? And I learned that, everything, I think I own everything of yours. And but the customer service class was very eye-opening for me, because it made me look at my process. So thank you for that. I just publicly want to thank you for changing the way that I see
it. Thank you.
You changed my life. You're responsible. No, not going there. But it did act as a catalyst to me looking hard at the way that I did things.
Good.
As you move forward, as you pivot, as you start to get in front of people and you're doing this and holding up the mirror to them, where do you find the point where you extract? Where do you say, all right, now you can walk on your own 2 feet, go? What is that thing you look for in them?
The second that they're completely honest is really like a good thing. Then that's all I'm trying to get. I'm not trying to instill in you that your work should be X, Y, or Z. I'm not trying to instill in you that your work should say a certain thing. I'm not like, there is infinite numbers of ways to do anything. I want you to get to the point where you're actually telling yourself some truth. And a lot of people don't realize that they're being dishonest with themselves. I think they've played a narrative so hard in their head for so long that they, just start to believe it, right? Yeah, so that's the moment. It's when you've actually assessed who you are, what you want your work to say, actually, what you want to, because I'm a women's empowerment photographer. Okay, and what else? And what else? Like, tell me how. How are you empowering? How are you, like, that's fine. That's great. But like, are you just saying that because it's a buzzword?
Right.
Because you probably are. Like, you probably are, right? Like, are you actually empowering? How are you doing so? And then how are you doing so and making it yours creatively, artistically, your brand message? How is everything completely customized and tailored? But once you're done examining all of that, I walk away and it's time for you to do the work. I mean, there's no, and I think my workshops, which is why they're not like, people want magic pills, of course. Yeah. People want the magic pill. They want the overnight thing. And I'm pretty transparent about the fact, which is I've been told by my mentors, like my business mentors, like, you could box it a little bit less work for people because you would have a much broader audience. And I'm like, I'm not going to dilute it. I will not dilute it because I don't ever, part of the customer service training is I'm not going to sell you a magic pill. I don't want to just sell you a $99 PDF book that you're never going to read. Right. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I want you to know that you have to actually take the information and apply it to your life, your work. Yeah. So I've been told I should probably soften some of the things that I'm putting out there. Maybe put something with a little like bow tie on it and hand it out as like an easy fix. The closest I got to that was presets, and like, that's it. That's the closest one button thing you're ever going to get from me. Everything else is going to require you to do some work because that's where the good juice is. That's where things get really good for you. And I actually want that for people. I never wanted to be an educator just to, because that's what you do as a photographer that's been in the industry for 10 years. I never wanted that. I actually wanted it to be a help and a guide to people and actually elicit some good change. And so that's what we're gonna keep doing, and I'll walk away when you're being honest with yourself, and the rest is on you.
The country-sized populations of people that you have helped would absolutely scream from mountaintops that they get it and they wouldn't have you any other way. I got one last question for you. So what is one thing that I didn't ask you that you've been dying to tell someone about?
Oh my gosh. I got nothing, Matt.
Perfect. That's perfect.
No,
I drew everything out of you.
Go back very much.
No,
you're a highly efficient interviewer.
Let's get this thing done.
Perfect.
Seriously, I love the conversations. I love the messaging, and I truly believe that without it becoming a trend, this is where the photography industry really needs to go, is relaxing the pressure, feeling a bit more individualistic. And you're a lighthouse with that philosophy. And I really, really appreciate everything you do for everyone. You're an amazing person, and I cannot thank you enough for everything that you do.
Oh, thank you, Matt. It's truly, genuinely my pleasure. Having conversations like this is so important, not just because we're shut-ins and we need this face-to-face, but it's really important to open this dialogue for artists, because it's important to know that you're certainly not alone in these weird things that we all go through, these prisons that we put ourselves in. If nothing else, I'm an open book and always happy to help and share my vulnerabilities and my fuck ups with everyone, so they feel a little bit better about themselves. But yeah, it's all about this, and the connection and the desire to just be better and put better out into the world.
I appreciate you so much. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Appreciate you. Thank you.
You got it.